Well, we're celebrating. Everybody here is happy. Let me bring up a somber note. With the success of the Houston Texans, this great defense, I have a feeling with all the vacancies we're going to see at the head coaching position job, somebody's going to come knocking at the door, Wade Phillips, and I don't blame them because he took this defense, which was one of the worst in the NFL, to the best this year in just 1 year. With that amazing turnaround, John, you have to think that somebody's going to be asking for Wade Phillips to lead their entire team to the promised land.
And starting Wednesday in the Chronicle, we'll be on Chronicle.com's Ultimate Texans all week. We have a story by Jeffrey Martin just about Wade Phillips becoming a head coach again. He's been to the playoffs with every team he's coached other than as an interim. And I think a team that just wants to get to the playoffs, I think Wade's going to get interviews. I think when he starts talking about his record's good. The only thing bad about Wade as a head coach, he only won one playoff game. But I don't know who would take over this defense, but Gary Kubiak said, and him being a longtime assistant who wanted to be a head coach, he understands he's all for his assistants getting head coaching jobs. But you never know. Maybe they'll lose the last three and Crater and Wade won't get any interviews, but we know that's not going to happen.
Well, he may say that he wants his assistants to get interviews, but trust me, when the cameras are down, the lights are off, I'm sure he's saying, please stay, Wade, because what he's been able to do with this defense has just been amazing. And when you talk amazing, you have to talk about Kevin Walter. Going into the Cincinnati game, the guy was sick. I remember Coach Kubiak said he was pale as a ghost in the hotel. He didn't know if he was going to make it, and all Kevin Walter does, 6 catches, 76 yards, the most important catch being the game-winning touchdown. And this is what Kevin Walter gives you. You hear a lot of people complain, why did they re-sign him? Why did they give them an extension? There isn't anybody saying that Kevin Walter is their premier wide receiver, but he is one of their premier football players. This is a guy that plays receiver. He could also run down on kickoffs if you need to make tackles. Never had more than 900 yards receiving, but he's a sure-handed, very good pass route running wide receiver, and I think the way he plays makes it easier for a guy like T.J. Yates to succeed early in his career.
He's also a very good blocker. If your wideouts can't block in this offense, they're not going to play. One of the things he was looking all white about, he'd spent the night before in the hospital. He had been sick and throwing up. Right. He had to get IV'd all night. I don't understand how a player can be so ill, be in a hospital all night, get an IV'd, and then come out and play so well. Is that the miracles of medicine, or is it talk about the player?
It's a little bit of both, the miracles of medicine and adrenaline. It's something to play on Sundays. I don't care if you've been in the league 1 year or if you've been 20 years. When that Sunday comes, the adrenaline starts to pump. It cures a whole lot of ailments.
I know you had your eye on another receiver.
Yeah, a tight end type receiver, Owen Daniels. What's been going on with Owen Daniels? Where's he been? Without Andre Johnson, why hasn't he been catching storm? 2 reasons. Joel Dreesen has been a very good backup tight end who's leading the team in touchdown receptions. And when Andre Johnson's out, I feel like a lot of teams have been focusing on Owen Daniels. Cincinnati didn't do that last week when they played. That's why he had 7 catches, 100 yards, and showed everybody why he went to the Pro Bowl before he was injured. I think Owen Daniels is back, and even though Andre Johnson won't be around for the next couple, I'm speculating, regular season games, Owen Daniels is going to be a huge factor.
You'd have to be living on Pluto not to know what Tebow time is. But what about TJ time?
It's time.
TJ Yates is the first quarterback since the merger in 1970 to lead his team to fourth quarter comeback victories in his first 2 starts. What does that say about TJ Yates?
It says he is cool, calm, and collected. This is one guy you could argue that he's surrounded by better talent than the other rookies in the NFL. But guess what? He's a 5th-round pick. He started off 3rd string on the roster. He is shown that he is the value pick of the draft when you look at what he's doing. I really like the way he plays. He doesn't get rattled. I remember when John Abraham gave him a crushing blow when he sacked him against Atlanta. He got up, hit his offensive lineman on the head and said, let's go. This guy doesn't act like a rookie, and I think that's why he's having the success he's having.
One of these shows, we're going to find out why he went in the 5th round, which still just blows me away. Now, you played for Gary Kubiak. The players respect Gary. He doesn't like to embarrass players on TV, but he'll chew guys out behind the scene. But one of the reasons they like him is after the game in which they came from behind to win in Cincinnati 20-19, we were in the media room. And we were listening with the door a little bit open. I didn't open it. It was open. And we could hear what was going on in the dressing room. Usually we can't hear. And Kubiak got up and he gave a game ball to Andre Johnson, who couldn't play, of course. And Andre got up and made a little speech, and the players started chanting. And then Andre, I'm told, almost had tears in his eyes. And he did later. When you see a gesture like that, as a player, what does it mean to see something like that?
It lets you know that your coach, who also played in the league, is a player's coach, and he understands what guys are feeling. After all that jubilation, winning the AFC South, he didn't forget about his player. He knows that the team wouldn't be where they're at without Andre Johnson. And for him to know that, all the other guys are going to respect Coach Kubiak for that. Andre Johnson is. It just lets you know that he's thinking of the guys that weren't on the field also. And he's also mentioned Mario Williams, Sharpton, guys who aren't on the field able to enjoy this time. And he's a player. He understands what they're going through. He knows it's a bittersweet moment for these guys. Matt Schaub, another one. And that just lets you know and feel that this guy, he's a coach, but he understands me as a player.
You know, I thought the first half they were terrible. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it because they proved they're still capable of stinking it up. They had 4 turnovers in this game. They've been great about turnovers. They were plus 12. They were minus 2 in this game. They were horrible in the first half. Ben Tate fumbling on the 1-yard line. But they bounced back. Does that worry you when you see the way they played in the first half?
If anything, it gives me hope when you talk about their playoff run. I don't care if you're talking about Green Bay, New England, Pittsburgh, all the elite teams. They've all gone through adversity, and you always ask yourself, how do you bounce back from it? Just like you mentioned, that first half was probably one of the worst halves in football for the Texans this season. Then they come out and have one of the best second halves. T.J. Yates was a huge part of that. So if they're in a playoff game and they get down, he could just go back in his memory and say, you know what, we were down in Cincinnati, and I found a way to lead us back. So I think that is something that's going to teach them and carry them throughout the playoff run.
Their next man up motto is being stretched to the extreme again. Right guard Mike Brazel played on a broken leg, a fractured fibula in the second half. He epitomizes what this team is all about. Antoine Caldwell will step in. What do you think about Antoine, a former third-round pick who has started?
That's what I like, that he has starting experience, and you're right, next man up. It goes more to show about Brazel and his toughness and finish the game to play on a broken leg. This is a guy who played in NFL Europe, who wasn't drafted. He's been cut, and now he's a starter. So I hate to see him go down again when they're going through things that they've never been through before. Mike Brazel's a big part of it, but Caldwell, I don't think they're going to miss a beat.
They're hoping Brazel can come back like Daniel Manning,
Right.
but Daniel Manning's got about 200 pounds on his
Exactly.
fractured fibula. Mike Brazel's got more than 300. Will that make a difference?
It definitely makes a difference. When you have injuries to your lower extremities, your weight matters.